The hearings for Judge Amy Coney Barrett begin today. California continues to burn, and the mass exodus is in full swing, and voter fraud grows as mail-in ballots become more widely available. Before we get started today, my analytics page tells me that 75% of my viewers are not subscribed. So I want to ask that you guys go subscribe to my channel, hit that like button on this video. I don't have a big marketing team or a big fancy studio, just a dude trying to share information that I think is important. So all traffic to my channel is through word of mouth and through you, my viewers. So if you like my content and you want to see more of it, share this video with your friends. If everyone who watched this video shared it one time, I would be bigger than Joe Rogan by the end of the week. All right, now on to the juicy news from the weekend. Let's take a look over at this article from the New York Post. Mismanagement, stubbornness have set California ablaze. So it's not climate change that has set California on fire, as Gavin Newsom claims. It's human mismanagement and green obstinacy. Fact check, true. Locking up forest and preventing tree clearing and the systematic fuel reduction required in any prudent management of nature has been a disaster in a state that is, quote, built to burn. True. All of these things are true. California has millions of square miles, hundreds of millions of square miles of just forest. And so what happens when you don't clean the underbrush? Lightning strikes, it's enough to burn the entire forest down. So what you need to do is you need to rake out the underbrush. You need to have controlled burns of the underbrush every few years so that this doesn't happen, right? So the idea here that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has put forth is that California is burning because of climate change and the temperatures are rising. This is not true in the slightest. The temperature over the last 100 years has only risen by like 1.5 degrees. So the idea that it's climate change or global warming or what have you that's causing these fires, it could not be further from the truth. It's forest mismanagement, because all of these people who claim to be environmentalists actually don't know anything about the environment. I know more about the environment than the people here in California. And I don't live in California. I live in a flyover state. It's a little ridiculous. I think we should have a bunch of people from ranches in Texas running the environmental branches of the government. I think they would be able to handle it better than these buffoons. Now that the cataclysm predicted by world forestry and fire experts has come to pass, the culprits are blaming climate change. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They warn of cataclysmic climate change if we don't suddenly remove the cheap fossil-fueled energy on which this nation's economic prosperity was founded. Then they work against any sensible management of California's forests that would reduce the severity of routine, regular wildfires. Then, when the wildfires become record-breaking conflagrations, they point and say, "See, I told you so." They're basically arsonists admiring their handiwork from afar. So they're setting the stage to blame climate change, and when they don't clean out the underbrush, everything catches on fire, and they say, "See, look, it's climate change," when really they're to blame for not cleaning out the underbrush. And so things like this and severe mismanagement of the electrical grid is leading to a mass exodus. Frustrated Californians move out, say coronavirus pandemic was, quote, last straw. Elon Musk is not the only person threatening to leave California. Dissatisfied residents have left in a minor exodus in recent years. In 2019, more than 500,000 Californians moved to Texas alone. That is hard to believe when standing along Grant Avenue in Novato, which is another iteration of Main Street, USA. But behind some of the small business storefronts in this picture, perfect scene, the coronavirus has brought pain and doubt to the American dream. So 500,000 Californians moved to Texas just from California. Right? California is the only state over the last several years to experience a net loss in population. Right? So we see people like Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, who else? Ben Shapiro with Daily Wire. All these people are leaving California because it is quite literally a dumpster fire. Right? The streets of California have become dumpsters, and it is on fire. California is literally a dumpster fire right now, and no one's doing anything about it. And it's hard to keep up with the bills right now, said Lam, an immigrant from Vietnam. His family arrived with next to nothing 30 years ago. Now, their restaurant, called Bacon, is much of what they have to show for it. But with his doors still closed, profits have dropped 90%. The family is ready to move to Texas, which is opening up, and already more affordable than California. I blame the state. Yes, I do, said Tien. And he's not alone. Up in the hills, Lauren Pritchard prepped this morning for a move from Florida by throwing old furniture into a dumpster. What is wrong with California, we asked. They said, I don't like the litter, the trash, the homeless, but that was before the pandemic, we reminded her. The pandemic was the last straw because they shuttered businesses that could stay open. One business in particular hit home for her. It's her husband's film to digital transfer service. When we asked Mike Pritchard about what role COVID-19 plays in their decision, it's challenging, shall we say? And that from a man who wants to move despite 40 years of living in this state. People have been living in this state for their entire lives, or most of their entire lives, and they're ready to move because it's a dumpster fire. Everything from homeless on the streets to litter and mismanagement of forests, and they're done. They're moving because of crappy government policy. That's really all this. That's really what this boils down to, is crappy government policy. Speaking of crappy government policy, 50,000 Ohio residents received wrong mail ballots. This is just in one county. If only someone could have predicted this. In Franklin County, Ohio, home to the Buckeyes state capital, it was revealed yesterday that 50,000 voters received the wrong ballots. You read that correctly. 50,000. In 2016, Trump won Pennsylvania by just 45,000 votes, Michigan by just 11,000 votes, and Wisconsin by 23,000 votes. 50,000 votes could decide the outcome of the next presidential election, not only for Ohio, but for the nation as a whole. It has been months of the left lecturing the right on how a forced mail election is the only way to go, and that it is necessary that all voters receive a ballot in the mail. Those on the right who would have advocated for people requesting ballots who would, like them, voluntary absentee, have stated that forced mail-in ballot would lead to massive errors and the potential for fraud. President Trump even weighed in on the scandal on Twitter. Breaking news, 50,000 Ohio voters getting wrong absentee ballots. Out of control, a rigged election. The chorus of I told you so has begun on the right as well. Sean Hannity tweets, it starts, single county in Ohio sends wrong absentee ballots to 50,000 voters. And this is just one county in Ohio. Okay? If this happens in even something as small as 15 other states, this would swing the election. Joe Biden could win. Donald Trump could win. But with this many wrong ballots, we wouldn't know who won until possibly 2025 at the earliest. This would take an investigation so large to get to the bottom of that it would take years. And this isn't the only thing we're seeing like this. So in Florida man accused of requesting mail-in ballot for deceased wife. A man in Florida has been arrested and charged with a felony after he allegedly requested a mail-in ballot for his wife, who died in 2018, while claiming to be testing the system, Fox News reports. Sarasota resident Larry Wiggins, 62, told WFLA TV in Tampa, I heard so much about ballots being sent in and people just having found them in different places. Feel like I haven't done anything wrong. However, Manatee Supervisor of Elections Mike Bennett claims that his staff discovered during a routine check that his wife, Ursula Wiggins, requested a mail-in ballot despite having died in 2018. The staff also found notable discrepancies in the handwriting on the ballot requested when compared to the signatures they had on file. Wiggins, who describes himself as a Democrat who supports President Donald Trump, acknowledged sending the application but denied trying to impersonate his late wife's signature, saying, I said, well, let me just send it in and see what's going to happen to see if they're actually going to send a ballot for her to vote. Bennett told Sarasota Herald Tribune he wanted to test the system. he did test the system. And guess what? It worked. He added, the amount of fraud committed in Florida in elections is very small. People complain that vote by mail is crooked. It's not. We catch them, we verify it, and any supervisor of elections in the state of Florida I know is just as conscious about it as I am. Okay, so but this is one example. This is one example in the state of Florida. Other states are not going to have this tight of security. Other states are not going to have this same routine maintenance checks that Florida did. We saw that in Ohio. 50,000 wrong votes. And all of this is going to lead to more support for Donald Trump. As Democrats keep saying, we need mail-in ballots, we need mail-in ballots. And then stories like this in Ohio and Florida keep breaking, Donald Trump's going to look a little more sane, which is insane to think of. How could you get more insane than Donald Trump? And he is. The man's kind of crazy. He says whatever comes to his mind. He has no filter between his head and his mouth, his head and his Twitter thumbs. I've said it a million times. I'll keep on saying it. The man's crazy. But he knows how to play the game. And he's playing it pretty well right now. As long as he keeps claiming that that mail-in ballots are a bad idea, and then stories like Ohio and Florida keep breaking, he's going to gain more support. Speaking of Donald Trump gaining more support, Amy Coney Barrett, her judicial hearings started today. And I think this is going to gain more support for Donald Trump, mainly because we saw the same thing with Neil Gorsuch, and we saw the same thing with Brett Kavanaugh in 2018. President Donald Trump's nominee for the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett, is appearing before senators in what has been billed as a, quote, contentious week of confirmation hearings. The 48-year-old conservative jurist has vowed to judge legal cases impartially, but her nomination so close to the November 3rd presidential election has sparked a political row between the Republicans and rival Democrats. Let's not pretend that this is what sparked the divide between the two parties. The divide between the two parties has been there for decades. Donald Trump just jumped right in the middle of it. As I've said previously, Donald Trump was not the murderer of American politics. He found the body, and everyone just thought he was the murderer. The murderer was the widespread liberal media. The murderer was people like Barack Obama. People seem to forget that all of the attacks that are being leveled against Donald Trump were leveled against Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell. All of these same line of attacks that they're putting against Trump, they're putting against every single Republican to ever hold a position in U.S. politics. And so Republicans said, you know what? I'm tired of it. I don't care if Donald Trump fits the description of what you're claiming. He's going to hit back. None of these other guys will. So if Donald Trump's the person who's going to hit back, we'll vote him into office, regardless of his character. He's a mud monster. The more mud they throw at him, it doesn't really do much. But the muddier you get in the process, thereby losing support of your own voters. And that is why Donald Trump was elected. And that's why I think he's going to win re-election. By nominating people like Amy Coney Barrett. As I said previously, Tim Pool said it best. Amy Coney Barrett's going to become an avatar of the suburban housewife. People are going to see they're going to see Amy Coney Barrett, and they're going to see that she is a devout Catholic, and they're going to see that she has adopted 2 kids from Haiti, and they're going to see that she is, by all accounts, a wonderful woman. And they're going to see all of the Democrats attacking her and say, they must really hate people like her. But I also fit that description. Does that mean they hate me? It's kind of a repeat of when you saw the video of Donald Trump eating a steak with ketchup. Which, say what you want about eating a steak with ketchup. Whatever. Donald Trump ate a steak with ketchup, and the liberal media went crazy over it, and they just berated him. And then what happened? All of those poor people sitting at home who really can't afford much steak are eating their steak with ketchup because it's cheaper than A1 sauce. And they look at their plate, and they look back at the CNN on their TV, and they think, they're attacking me for eating steak with ketchup. Maybe I'm on the wrong side. And so they're pushing voters into the Trump camp. Shameful. The Democrats are calling this hearing shameful, but their their actions during this entire President Trump tenure has been shameful. The panel's top Republican began by vowing to confirm the, quote, great woman, but one Democratic senator on the committee describes the process as shameful. Judge Barrett's approval would cement a 6-3 conservative majority on the 9-member top court, shifting its ideological balance for potentially decades to come. President Trump picked Judge Barrett to replace liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who died last month, aged 87. The Republicans, who currently hold a slim majority in the U.S. Senate, the body that confirms Supreme Court judges, are trying to complete the process before Trump takes on Democratic rival Joe Biden in the election, which they should. They need to get it done as fast as possible, because if they wait, they run the risk of it not happening at all. If they lose the majority in the Senate, then they can't confirm anyone. But I find it ironic and a little amusing that the Democrats are attacking Trump and the Republicans for this, when the Democrats are the ones that made it all possible. Because in 2016, if you remember, they are the ones that changed the rules from needing a supermajority of 60 votes to a simple majority of 51 votes to try and push through Merrick Garland. And then they still couldn't do it. And it is that rule change that has allowed Trump to get his 3 nominees. And now we see that the Democrats are trying to change the rules again by packing the Supreme Court. When will they learn? Play the game with the written rules. Changing the rules is not a good look. Changing the rules will lose you support, as it has in California, and as it will inevitably in the next presidential race. Thanks for watching. As I said at the beginning of the video, please hit that subscribe button, like this video, share it with your friends, help me grow my channel so I can keep producing this sort of content. See you tomorrow.